This week on SpokeTV, Waterloo Region comes together to celebrate refugees who can now call the region home.
She's thanking the Canadian government for doing everything for them.
Then, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada was at Conestoga College. Find out what was talked about.
This isn't the end, I just want you to know.
Finally, just like the cinematic universe, Marvel is taking over Netflix. Find out what they have planned for later this year. That and more on this episode of SpokeTV. Hello and welcome to SpokeTV. I'm Stephanie Gick.
And I'm Alan Broadhagen, and we've got a great show for you today. Those who travel over the Niska Road Bridge to get in and out of Guelph thought they had used it for the final time at the end of last month. But the province has now given the city a go-ahead to reconstruct a brand new two-lane bridge by 2019. SpokeTV's Brittany Bordelon tells us about the future plans for the bridge.
Commuters traveling to and from Guelph can look forward to future plans for the Niska Road Bridge. Barricades went up last month preventing future access to the 43-year-old bridge originally built for temporary purposes. Guelph Mayor Cam Guthrie says the bridge had to be closed because it was deemed no longer safe.
We're going to have to shut this down. This bridge can no longer be fixed. It has to be replaced. And so for those liability reasons and risk reasons and to keep the community safe, we have decided to close it.
The process for building a new bridge is back in the city's hands. The province has given the go-ahead for construction of a new two-lane bridge. Guthrie says the bridge won't be completed until 2019, but construction won't begin until a heritage study is done.
Our plan now is to do a heritage impact study and other engagement with the community about bike lanes and other improvements to the road, and also design concepts for the bridge, and that's called the detailed design stage.
Guthrie says that while commuters have had to find an alternate route, ultimately, the community is happy with the city's decision.
There has been a mixed emotions in regards to the bridge. I would say most people have reached out to me lately saying that they're very happy that the province has finally come up with the decision. So we all know where we're going now. The bridge is going to be reopened, it's going to be reconstructed, it's going to be a two-lane bridge. And so I think most people are just relieved that having this up in the air for so long now is finally over.
Closed 43 years after it was originally built in 1974. The bridge used by drivers as a convenient way to get between the Hanlon Parkway and Highway 124 was used by an estimated 5,000 vehicles per day prior to its closure. The city is hoping to have the bridge rebuilt and opened in 2019. For SpokeTV, I'm Brittany Bordelon.
Thanks, Brittany. Painfully true words were spoken by members of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. SpokeTV's Christina Bruce takes a look at what they had to say at Conestoga College on March 24th.
The Truth and Reconciliation event was a way of bringing people together to build a harmonious environment.
This isn't the end, I just want you to know. This is just the beginning of a process that we need to take.
The event broke down barriers, especially on an emotional level. Maingan Henry, manager of Aboriginal Services, says that speaking to people from a vulnerable place is something that helps begin the healing process.
These types of things that we talk about are so dear to our hearts. Our emotions have to be contributors to our moving forward. So when we talk about sensitive issues, I think we're very experienced at that.
The event that took place at Conestoga College welcomed many students to what Aboriginal life is like. Chrissy Orlowski, student life programmer of Community Initiatives, says that she wants to see students find their place in the Aboriginal community.
I hope the students will take away community building, kind of just more self-awareness of themselves too and where they fit in all of this.
Orlowski also says she wants people to grow from these experiences.
But I think it'll just be really educational, and so I hope the students actually are able to identify with that and grow from it.
The struggles and pains that Aboriginals faced runs deep in history. The Truth and Reconciliation event aims to heal those scars.
what has happened in the past is still affecting us today, and so it's going to take time. These aren't just Band-Aid fixes of what needs to happen, especially when you need to kind of change the learning experience for people. It takes a lot of time. It takes policy and procedure implementation.
With much work still needed to be done, all it will take is time.
Reconciliation means what are we going to do as a group of people living in the same country to make life better for everybody.
For SpokeTV, I'm Christina Bruce.
Thanks, Christina. There's still more than 6 months to go until Oktoberfest kicks off its 49th celebration in Kitchener. And this year, things are going to be different.
A familiar stop is seeing some changes on this year's KW Oktoberfest schedule. Bingemans announced that they would not be serving as an official fest hall for the 2017 Oktoberfest celebrations. Although Bingemans will no longer be an accredited fest hall, they will continue to operate the Cool House and still plan on hosting other Oktoberfest events. The move also means that craft beer will likely be featured at the venue for this year's festivities. Bingemans won't be able to use the KW Oktoberfest logo at Cool House, but they can use the term Oktoberfest. Bingemans has been an official partner since the festival began in 1969. There will be 13 accredited fest halls for the 2017 Oktoberfest celebrations.
After the break, find out how people from across the region helped celebrate refugees and welcomed them to their new homes. As people joined together to celebrate their immigration to Canada, many were happy to see the growing diversity in Kitchener. SpokeTV's Justine Fraser caught up with the new refugees at an event on March 24th to see how they're adapting to Canadian life.
Kitchener City Hall welcomed about 1,800 refugees that have settled in the region since December 2015. About 90% of the refugees who came in the past 15 months are from war-torn Syria. As they navigate immigrating to Canada, most refugees need help understanding the language. One Syrian mother, using a translator, is happy to be here and that her children are learning to speak English quickly.
She's thanking the Canadian government for doing everything for them, making their life and transition to Canada is very easy. Most important thing is her kids. They are adapted well, they are settled, they are happy. She's again thanking the Canadian government for making that happen. She came immediately from Syria to Canada and she's happy about that.
A high-spirited and brave little girl named Safwa celebrated at the event with her family. She remembers a little of what her life was like in Syria and is happy to call Canada home.
They used to throw bombs and it exposed their feet, and I saw a person that had like the feet of Cherry Fox.
The crowd gathered together to hear thank yous from refugees to all the people who have helped them in their journey. A woman working with Shamrose is also an immigrant and understands why families choose to live in Kitchener.
I think Kitchener is a very good place for families. I think she just mentioned because of all the resources which are available for them in the Waterloo region.
With National Refugee Rights Day coming quickly on April 4th, people from all over the community have already begun to rejoice. Many refugees living in the Waterloo region came to Kitchener City Hall today to celebrate their journey to Canada. For SpokeTV, I'm Justine Fraser.
Thanks, Justine. The City of Kitchener has moved forward with implementing a bylaw that will fine grocery stores up to $10,000 for having stray shopping carts. SpokeTV's Stefan Singh caught up with a city councillor to chat about the bylaw.
Kitchener City Council has decided to go forward with a bylaw that will affect grocery stores around the region. Loose shopping carts have become a rising issue in the region over the last year. City Council had received 11 complaints over the span of 2016 about shopping carts being left on sidewalks, near apartment buildings, and in public parks. These carts alone are worth $700 apiece. Ward 2 Councillor David Schneider can be found helping at his wife's restaurant, The Sip and Bite, in Elmira on the weekends. But he is concerned about the safety of the people in the Waterloo region.
I understand, too, that it is a safety issue. If they're left on sidewalks, then, that's a problem. People, could hit them, bump into them. They could make their way onto the road. They make their way onto parks and trails, things like that, which you don't want. So absolutely, we want to address that.
Ward 3 Councillor John Gazzola was unable to be interviewed, but he was quoted in the Waterloo Region Record earlier last week as saying, "I don't think it's an onerous amount of work. They do have to come up with a plan anyhow. We're just asking that it be filed so it's available for us to follow up on." Councillor Schneider has an idea as to why the carts are usually found off-site.
And when it comes down to them leaving the premises, it's usually by people who don't have a car and they don't have the financial means to have a car. And they live very close to the store. So it's an apartment building or a housing complex that's very close to the store.
Local grocery stores like Food Basics and Veras are two of the biggest grocers in the region. Food Basics has 7 locations in the Tri-Cities and Veras has 10. As of right now, the Veras on Ottawa and River uses a system where the wheels lock in the carts as they are about to leave the premises. The technology is similar to that of gatekeeper systems. The smart wheels are connected wirelessly through several routers on site, and as shoppers approach the boundaries of the grocery store, the wheels then lock. Schneider thinks there are ways to help prevent the shopping carts from being displaced in an educational format. The maximum fine is set for $10,000, but that is just a maximum, and it won't be enforced until multiple offenses have occurred. For SpokeTV, I'm Stefan Singh.
The region of Waterloo will be posting new signs in advance of the first LRT vehicle to be tested on rails later this spring. Considered one of the more important is the yellow diamond caution sign, which will warn drivers that tracks are either running alongside a roadway or crossing a roadway. There will be an open house April 8th for anyone who would like to take a tour of one of the trains, as stage 1 of the LRT service is nearing completion. In a couple months, construction workers will start paving operations, which will finally be completed. The roadwork will require short-term closures to allow application, curing, and stripping of the asphalt. Construction of the storage facility on 518 Dutton Drive in Waterloo continues and will be where all the IONS rail vehicles will be maintained, washed, and stored when they aren't being used. When stage 1 of the LRT is completed, ION will be hiring nearly 100 employees to operate the facility.
When we come back, Waterloo Region is no stranger to successful startups, but our reporter discovers that there are some dangers that people who own their own businesses need to be aware of.
For many, online businesses are uncharted territory. SpokeTV's Justin Emanuel spoke with some people who gave it a shot and discovered what they learned.
The Waterloo region is known for its booming startup industry, and for the first time we're seeing an abundance of online-only businesses that aren't only making their way into the region but are already making a name for themselves. When it comes to how easy it is to start your own business, local residents are unsure.
So in terms of starting your own business, it depends on the context. If you're doing an online business, that is different challenges and issues that you'll run into as opposed to being a brick and mortar store. And also your products, whether you're doing food or products that you can do yourself.
2 local co-owners of an online health drink bottle business give their inputs on the challenges that one might encounter while trying to work on their dreams. In particular, they mention how scams are a common thing to keep an eye out for.
Nobody's really out there for your well-being. There is that, but I mean, everybody coming to you is looking for themselves to make a buck as well. And you know, when they come in right away and before you've even talked to them, they're offering you a discount or this and that. Just be skeptical.
They say that people with less than helpful intent know that young startups are willing to pay anything to make their business a reality and can look very authentic until you realize they've left with your money. Even then, it's not as easy as some would think. Even the popular crowdfunding site Kickstarter can be surprisingly complicated. With the website being so saturated, young business owners are left needing to spend lots of money to get the exposure that they need.
You quickly realize that there's like levels of, big companies who run Kickstarter campaigns, and there's like, the mid-size, smaller, and then there's like the nobodies like us.
Overall, the one thing the Hamley brothers suggest to anyone trying to start their own business, online or not, is to do their research. They also said not to worry too much because even though things don't always work out the way you want them to, it will still be easier than expected. For SpokeTV, I'm Justin Emanuel.
Many women who have finished treatment at an addiction treatment center have no place to go. Now, a new post-treatment transitional house for women to live in has opened up in the region of Waterloo. After 3 years of negotiations, fundraising, and construction, Emmanuel United Church has opened up Veras Place early last month. Veras Place is a duplex home with 2 living rooms, 2 dining rooms, 2 kitchens, 6 bedrooms, and 4 bathrooms. The entire building has been renovated and will be a home for 6 women who came from a treatment center.
They're coming from treatment and then heading toward their own permanent living arrangements. So this just gives them a breathing space of up to a year where they can stay here and figure life out.
Many people who donated and volunteered attended the open house at Emmanuel United Church. Mayor Dave Jaworski and everyone else thanked all those who contributed to Veras Place. After that, everyone took a tour inside the building to see the results. The first 6 women moved in on February 16th.
That is great news for the community. In other news, backyard chicken coops have become a new norm in the region. We go to Justine Fraser, who takes a closer look at the health concerns of these residential chicken coops.
An urban backyard chicken keeper has had chickens since she was young and never experienced any health problems from them. She and her family are currently raising 3 chickens that they collect eggs from daily.
Chickens, there is work involved. You have to keep it clean. You have to be organized. You have to be smart with how you clean up after it, because otherwise you will get sick, or you can make the chickens sick.
Steckel Heritage Farm has been raising chickens since it opened in 1833. This unique farm in the city provides plenty of space, indoor and outdoor, for chickens to run free. Krista Cressman works at the educational farm, teaching children about farm animals and how to care for them.
You're doing it probably for the reasons that you want, your source of ethically raised eggs. So you would want to make sure that you have a situation that is the healthiest possible for them, so that they have adequate space to engage in behaviors that are natural to a chicken.
Wiping off the eggs thoroughly before eating them will keep things like E. coli and salmonella from entering your body. The best way to prevent illness is to simply wash your hands.
Anyone preparing to buy chickens in Kitchener should continue to do research, as anyone with a low immune disease is likely to develop an infection. But most say as long as you stay clean, you're likely to develop no issues. Back to you.
Thanks, Justine. School guidelines expect children to bring nutritious lunches to school. As Justin Emanuel reports, this can make it difficult for some families who depend on food banks to pack healthy lunches for their kids.
Food banks across the country are noticing an increase in their use over the past year, and more than ever are in need of donations. This spike has been caused by the rising prices of life necessities such as the food itself, hydro, housing, transportation, and an increased level of competition in the job market. In addition, the first wave of refugees has begun to settle in the country, and sometimes they depend on what the food bank gives them to start a life in Canada. However, this isn't the only struggle faced by people who need food banks for survival. According to the executive director of a local food bank, struggling parents often keep their children from school because if they don't, teachers may ridicule their kids for not packing enough of a nutritious lunch that, in reality, they can't afford.
So I said, look in this emergency food room and you tell me what mamas or dads could pick here to put in their kids' lunches. And one of the women that works at the board office, she said, oh my God.
Pat says that an effort is being made to inform teachers that sometimes good nutrition is simply unaffordable.
After dominating the big screen, Marvel seems to now have their eyes set on taking over Netflix. Find out more after the break.
Earlier this week, my co-anchor Alan Broadhagen sat down with SpokeTV's reviewer Cassandra McNeil to talk about the 4 shows that have been leading up to Marvel's The Defenders, set to release on Netflix later this year.
Thanks, Stephanie. It's no surprise that Marvel dominates the big screen with their Avengers universe. Fans of those movies will get a taste of the darker side of Marvel with some Netflix original shows. I'm here with Cassandra McNeil to talk about the 4 shows leading up to the Defenders series later this year.
Yeah, so Marvel's Netflix only shows Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, and most recently Iron Fist have all been leading up to The Defenders, which will follow the unlikely heroes as they try to work together to save New York City.
You think the 4 of you can save New York?
You watched Daredevil and Iron Fist. Tell me a little bit about those.
Yeah, so Daredevil's the one that started this whole thing off. It follows Matt Murdock, who is a blind attorney by day and the hero Daredevil by night. Basically, him and his friend Foggy run their own law firm called Nelson & Murdoch, and they're just trying to help the little guy in Hell's Kitchen, New York, where a bunch of crime lords are coming together and trying to work together to basically take over Hell's Kitchen and do what they want with the small part of the large city. So by day, he's trying to stop this criminal underworld, basically, with the law, and then by night, he goes around and tries to stop them with his fists and with the help of some of the police who don't necessarily agree with his tactics. Iron Fist is the most recent Netflix original show from Marvel that's come out. Iron Fist is about Danny Rand, who returns from basically being trained in an alternate universe by monks, and he returns as the Iron Fist, which is basically where all of his chi goes into his fists, and he can basically break anything. The main enemy in this show is kind of a returning enemy from a couple of the other Marvel shows called the Hand. And Danny has to deal with trying to stop the Hand, and that's kind of where it leads into the Defenders, where the Defenders now need to try and stop what the Hand is doing in New York City. So those were two of the Marvel series. You watched the other two Marvel series, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage. Tell me a little bit about those.
So Jessica Jones is based off of the comic book series Alias, and it focuses on a private investigator with a dark past and some superhuman strength. Possibly my favorite part about the series is the starkiness and the overall tone. It's a breath of fresh air to the typical movies that we're exposed to from Marvel, and the villain in the show, Kilgrave, his narcissistic and sociopathic ways connect with Jessica's attitude really well, and it's nice to see an anti-hero go against such a mind-controlling villain. We were introduced to Luke Cage in Jessica Jones before he got his own show, where we see the unbreakable superhuman try to rebuild his life in Harlem. We see an almost vulnerable side to such a powerful man while he fights himself in deciding whether or not he wants to become the neighborhood's hero. But I feel like that because we did get an introduction to him already, his own show almost feels a little bit empty. It was done really well, but it just isn't my favorite of the 4 shows.
Being a hero just puts a target on your back.
Not much is known about the Defender series, other than that it will be released later this year. But with recent success of character development in all of their movies and shows, it'll be no surprise when Marvel dominates the small screen. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thanks, Alan and Cass. Now a look at your entertainment news. Amy Schumer has dropped out of the live-action Barbie movie just a few months after being cast for the lead role. The movie was scheduled to start filming in June, but Schumer has a new comedy being released in May and is embarking on a lengthy promotional tour. She's also set to begin shooting a film alongside Steve Carell soon. Schumer says she's disappointed, but she's excited to see the movie on the big screen. The trailer for the new Netflix documentary, Casting JonBenet, was released, and it takes a chilling look at the still unsolved murder. The trailer features actors from Boulder, Colorado, sharing their memories of the most publicized case in their town, and features them weighing in on who they think committed the crime. The documentary comes just a few months after the 20th anniversary of the death of 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey and arrives on Netflix on April 28th. The Power Rangers movie had a mighty opening weekend, and while it lost the top spot at the box office to Beauty and the Beast, it made more than $40 million before Sunday. The film, starring Elizabeth Banks and Bryan Cranston, saw almost $15 million on the opening night alone. The film touches on modern-day issues, including one ranger being on the autism spectrum and another engaging in cyberbullying.
I am so excited for the Power Ranger movie. I can remember coming home from school every day and turning on that TV and watching the show right away.
Oh my gosh, me too. I was like young in the 90s when it was premiering. That was the time for me. It was amazing. I loved the cheesiness of it.
Are you planning on seeing the film this week?
I'm actually planning on checking it out on Wednesday, and you can see the review on that next week on SpokeTV.
That's going to be awesome. That's all the time we have for today. You can see all the stories on SpokeTV.ca or follow us on Twitter at SpokeTV. I'm Alan Broadhagen.
And I'm Stephanie Gick.